And we are back in the building, back with some more boxing. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and all that good stuff. Now, guys, I have to admit, it has been an extremely big year for the sport of boxing. I don't have any complaints. We've had some great fights this year, probably one of the biggest years ever. Fights like Devin the Dream Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko. We had Frank Martin versus Michelle Rivera. We had Caleb Sweethands Plant versus David Benavidez. We had Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. And just this past weekend, we had a fight that was 5 years in the making, a super fight at welterweight that answered all the questions that we needed to know. Who's undisputed at 147? Who's going to be the undisputed champion, the king of 147? And that was Terrence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. Now, despite all the questions being answered this past Saturday, which is 4 days removed, by the way, we still have these rebels, these separatists, these traumatized Bud deniers, not wanting to give Terrence Bud Crawford his props for defeating Errol Spence Jr. They can't come to grips with this, that the Fisherman is the new Thanos of the 147-pound division. He even brought his net to the ring to capture the big fish. And now this medical professional goes on a podcast and says that he sees signs of neurological damage with Errol Spence Jr. Because of the car accident. So now the new excuse, the new and improved excuse, is what this medical professional had to say, basically saying that Errol Spence Jr. is damaged goods. So now everybody's running with this, like I said, as the new excuse. Now, I will admit, I'm no doctor. You know, I don't know if Errol Spence Jr. does have neurological damage to his body, to his brain. But I do have common sense. And common sense tells me if he has neurological damage, that would have been apparent in his two other fights that he had since the car accident. You guys saw what he did to Danny Garcia. He pretty much dominated Danny Garcia in his fight. We saw what he did to Ugas. He beat Ugas like a piñata, snatching his eyeball. Shout out to the real Marlo TV. I know people aren't giving you your props for the eyeball thing. Everybody's running with it like they created it. So nobody complained about neurological damage during those two fights. They only started complaining about it once he lost to Terrence Bud Crawford in a one-sided beatdown. Now the complaints are starting. Now he's damaged goods. And you know, you can't really blame Errol for this one. You got to kind of feel for Errol, because despite all this complaining and excuse making, he hasn't made one excuse. He came out and said that, you know, he had no excuses. He said the better man won that night. He had no excuses, guys. And he said that he still has his head up. I'm paraphrasing here. He said he still has his head up like a nosebleed. And that he's a man, and he, even if he had an excuse, he wouldn't entertain it out in the public. Like I said, I'm paraphrasing. And he even, after all this, he still wants to fight Terrence Bud Crawford in a rematch at 154 pounds. Despite being totally dominated in the fight by Bud, he still wants that fight. So you can't do anything but respect that. despite, you know, some of the fans, some of the traumatized fans making all these excuses. Now, I said it before, I think the fight at 154 will be a lot more competitive. I think Errol will be probably a lot stronger, feel a lot better. He doesn't have to cut as much weight, of course, but I think the outcome will probably be the same because of the skill set. And you guys know when it comes to boxing, there's levels to the game. Errol Spence Jr. is a tremendous fighter. He's better than most. But Bud Crawford is a special fighter. He's a special one. And I said that before the fight. Some of you guys know I'm a fan of Errol Spence Jr. But I picked Bud Crawford to win the fight. I picked Bud Crawford to stop Errol in the 10th round. And it's not because of, you know, well, basically it was because of what I saw. Looking at both of the guys' skill sets. I know how to separate being a fan from being a realist when it comes to sport of boxing. I try to give you guys the truth on my picks, who I think is going to win the fight, despite who I think, you know, who I like the most in the fight. I look at the skill set. I match that up and I say, okay, you know, I'm a big fan of Errol Spence Jr., but Terrence Bud Crawford, this guy's special. Terrence Bud Crawford is going to win this fight. I did the same thing earlier in that week with Fulton and Nuyue. I had Fulton going into the fight, but I said that he wasn't going to win the fight. I said it was going to be I think I said 9th round stoppage, and he got stopped in the 8th round. But here's the thing. For some reason, some of these fans don't want to give Terrence Bud Crawford his props. He's the #1 fighter on the planet. And he deserves his props. He did what he said he was going to do. And I can't do anything but respect the guy. I gotta give it up for him. He deserves better, guys. He deserves better. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about this neurological damage situation with Errol Spence Jr. Do you think that's the case? Do you think this is just another excuse? You guys let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. It's the CMB. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And I'm out. Peace.